Hey guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel, and welcome if you are new. I feel like I'm in some TV setup because this isn't normally my usual spot to do videos. And I'm just gonna put it out there, I am 35 weeks pregnant currently and I am sweating because once again, it's super hot here in Lisbon. It's the middle of August and yeah, it's just a joyous time to be pregnant because you're already sweating it out anyway, and then you've got the temperature, and I've had to close all the windows so you guys don't hear the noise outside. But let's dive into this video of the do's and don'ts for exercise during pregnancy. Now, just as a quick disclaimer guys, before we do get into the whole video, I just want to make it super clear to please always make sure that you get your doctor's or your physio's consent before you do any exercise and also take on any advice that I'm giving. I'm not actually trained in prenatal, but I do work with a physio, and everything that I've done, I have got her consent to move forward in when I am doing my exercises. Every woman is totally different, every pregnancy is different, so it's always best that you get yourself checked out before you take on any advice. Now, as a general rule of thumb, before we dive into the exact do's and don'ts, one of the general things that, I learned when I actually got pregnant was you can continue to do the exercises that you have previously done, but just don't take up any new sports. So, for example, I am not a runner. I never have been, and I probably never will be. That's because I am terrible at it. But now that I am pregnant, I'm not gonna start taking up running and go and do a marathon because that's something that my body's not used to and it's not going to help the child. So it's best to stick to things that you have done prior to getting pregnant. They're normally okay to do as you're in your pregnancy, but obviously as you go along in your trimesters, you will have to do certain modifications. But again, it's always best to get yourself checked out. Now, let's dive into those do's and don'ts. So let's just start with oh my God, my baby's kicking. Let's just start with the don'ts to begin with. So number one is don't exercise to exhaustion. Now this means don't exercise to the point that you're really pushing yourself, you're completely out of breath and you feel tired. They normally say that when you exercise, you want to take it to about 60–70%. That should be your absolute capacity, and then you should definitely bring it down. Now, one of the things that I learned when I was doing my research when I got pregnant, when I was exercising, was the breath test. Now, when I'm doing a routine, say for example at home, if I can still manage to hold a conversation and talk with my partner or a friend, it means that I'm actually at a good pace. If I'm finding it very difficult to breathe and I'm going, trying to catch my breath, it means that I'm taking it too far and you need to bring it down a notch. So, like I said, don't exercise to exhaustion. Tip number two is don't do any sports where there's a risk of falling. So for example, I mean like horseback riding or skiing. The chances of you falling are a much higher probability than you doing something like yoga or Pilates. And obviously we don't want to put any risk to yourself or the baby, so it's best not to do exercises with those risks. Number three is don't do any jerky or bouncy movements. Now, this is something that I learned when I got into probably about the second trimester. So that was doing exercises where I couldn't physically jump anymore, and that is because of the pelvic floor. Now, not only is it going to get uncomfortable as you get bigger anyway, and trust me, you're probably not going to want to move around that much because I know I certainly don't. You actually don't want to be jumping too much because of your pelvic floor anyway. So just make sure that you're avoiding any sort of jerky movements or jumping routines. Also, I was told to avoid too much twisting of the abdomen because you don't obviously want to stretch your linea alba too much. I don't know the exact ins and outs of this exactly, but I have just made sure that I have completely avoided any of those type of exercises anyway, and I just make sure that I just do smaller upper movements to help mobility in my back. And the last one is don't lay on your back for too long. Now, this is something that I learned when I was doing my research, and I did speak to my prenatal physio about this. Now, the reason being is because we have a long vein that runs down the back of our spine. And when we actually lay on our back, the baby puts pressure on it, and then it basically cuts off our oxygen supply to our heart. So this isn't something that we want to do for long periods of time. Now, when I do exercise with my physio, there might be a couple of seconds where I'm laying on my back, but she is monitoring me the entire time. If you are on your own, I highly advise not to be laying on your back, but again, you will need to speak to a physio or your doctor about this. But the general rule of thumb here, guys, is not to lay on your back for long periods of time, whether that's sleeping or whether it's exercising on the floor. You're always best to lay on your side, preferably the left. I think it's all right to lay on the right, but preferably the left is the safest side. Now, let's get into the fun stuff of what you can do and what you can actually do exercising when you are pregnant. So let's dive into these tips now, guys. Now, tip number one, I'm just going to say it again to make it blatantly obvious, is always speak to your doctor or physio when you are doing your workouts. I actually get checked on a weekly basis with my current physio. That's because obviously as your pregnancy progresses, a lot changes. You grow a lot in a week. I mean, my belly is growing non-stop, especially now in the third trimester. So it's good to always get assessed and make sure that you're doing things that are okay for you and your child. So please make sure you're always getting advice from them. Second is do make sure that you are doing your Kegel exercises as well as breathing. Now, Kegel exercises are so important for your pelvic floor. It's super easy to do. There's tons of tutorials on it online. If you guys want me to talk a little bit more in depth about it, more than happy to do so. But basically, you just want to imagine that you're drawing up everything from below, you're sucking it up into your body, and then you're relaxing. This is going to help to really strengthen your pelvic floor and give you more of a chance after you've had your baby to get that pelvic floor stronger. So my advice is just to practice it once a day, just to begin with, hold for 10 seconds and then let it go. It's honestly going to help you so much after you've had the baby. The second point within that was making sure that you're doing your breathing exercises. Now, this is something that I picked up when I was in the second trimester to help not only with my core strength, especially the transverse abdominis, but it's also going to help me when I'm actually in delivery giving birth. Now, again, I am more than happy to do a video on this, but again, in this video, you can see here in the demonstration, it's just about really imagining that you're hugging your baby, you're sucking everything in, you're holding it as well as your pelvic floor, and then you're letting everything drop and rest. That's gonna, again, really help you guys after you've had the baby, and it also helps keep those core muscles intact without having to do any abdominal exercises. Number 3, leading on to those breathing exercises is making sure that you're breathing correctly during your exercises. Now, this is vital because you wanna make sure not only are you getting enough oxygen into your body and your baby, you wanna make sure that you're actually slowing down your movements and making sure that your performance and your posture is correct. Now, when I do my exercises, I actually make sure that the breathing technique that I showed you, I follow along actually into my routine. So I make sure I suck everything in, I hold the baby in, my core's nice and strong, then I go into a movement, say, such as a squat. The breathing techniques are super important when you are working out, and more than ever, you're just making sure that you're getting enough oxygen and air into your body. The next one, guys, is to focus on your alignment and your posture. Now, again, I was guilty before I got pregnant of not really wondering too much about, my posture and my alignment when I was sitting in general. It was something I only really focused on during exercise. But as my pregnancies progressed, I've really seen such a difference in making sure that my posture and my alignment is in the correct position, because it makes all the difference to your exercise moves. So just make sure to exercise maybe with a mirror in front of you. That's what I do. So if I am doing, say, a squat exercise, I can see in the mirror that my back's nice and straight, my pelvis is aligned, and I want to make sure that everything's in the correct position. So just practice this a few times with a mirror in front of you, and then obviously as you keep doing it and repeating it, it will just become a natural instinct for you to do. And my final exercise before I run out of breath speaking, because the baby is so high, is to make sure that you take it slow during your exercise. Now, this isn't about, a time for you to be trying to get your best body. This is just for you to maintain and stay a healthy, sort of body weight and muscle thing for your child. Now, when you are working out, take it slow and make sure that you're really focusing on those moves, especially the mind-muscle connection. Like I said prior, you want to make sure that your posture is correct, your alignment with your pelvis is correct, and you want to make sure that you're breathing through your exercise. Take it slow. Even if you don't do as many reps, it's totally fine. Sometimes when I'm doing exercises, I only manage to get 6 to 8 reps in now, and I'm absolutely finished. That's because I'm really focusing on making sure that everything's correct in that movement. I'm taking it slow, I'm taking my time, and I'm making sure that I'm getting enough oxygen into my body. So guys, that is my do's and don'ts for exercise during pregnancy. I hope all this information has really helped you. I know that obviously when I got pregnant, it was such a struggle to find information out there. And there's so many conflicting advices and whatnot. You just have to take everything obviously down to the best of your ability, and always, like I said, make sure you speak to a doctor or a physio to get their opinion for your body. We're all different, and every pregnancy is going to be different for every single woman. But I hope that some of the advice here today has really helped you. And of course, if you have any questions, please leave them below in the comment section, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. But that is the end of the video, guys. I hope you really did enjoy this. So don't forget to give me a like and subscribe to my YouTube channel because it really does help. And I will see you guys all very soon.